Since the early 2000s, Disney has been trying everything in their power to recapture the magic of the Pirates of the Caribbean franchise. With numerous failed attempts at a new franchise, they accidentally created a new subgenre of films in the process. A subgenre I like to call the failed next big thing. These are movies that Disney dumped tons of money into making, but more often than not, they failed both at the box office and with critics. Today is a very spooky episode as we are covering Haunted Mansion. No, not the original 2003 film with Eddie Murphy, which actually performed pretty well at the box office. We're covering the 2023 remake, which absolutely bombed at the theater and was torn apart by critics. So let's examine this abomination to see what went wrong, and I'll offer some of my theories on why this film failed to relaunch the franchise like it was supposed to. Before we take a look at the production of Haunted Mansion, I want to talk to you about the sponsor of today's video, Surfshark VPN. A while back when I made my video on Tomorrowland, I had to rent the movie since it wasn't streaming on Disney Plus in my country at the time. This really annoyed the hell out of me because the film prided itself on its connections to Disneyland and the Disney brand. But then, I couldn't even watch it on their streaming service. However, if I had known about Surfshark VPN when I made that video, I could have easily just set my location to a country where it was streaming and then watched it without having to pay that extra money to rent the movie. If you're a movie fan like me, Surfshark VPN is the perfect tool to have access to all kinds of movies and TV shows that you wouldn't normally have access to in your country, as Surfshark has over 3,200 servers in 100 countries. I'll be honest, I never used a VPN before Surfshark, and it's been a game changer for me as I now have access to so much more content. When I write the scripts for my videos, pretty often I like to go to a local coffee shop or restaurant. And this of course means I use public Wi-Fi, which can pose a threat to my personal information. Luckily, now that I have Surfshark, my data is protected while using public Wi-Fi, so that I don't become the victim of identity theft or fraudulent purchases. Surfshark also has tons of other helpful products, such as Surfshark Alert, which is a breach detection system that notifies you of personal data leaks. So make sure to check out the link in the description for 4 extra months of Surfshark VPN. Surfshark offers a 30-day money-back guarantee, so even if you try it out and don't like it, you can still get your money back. Once again, thank you so much to Surfshark for sponsoring this video, and now back to Haunted Mansion. 2023's Haunted Mansion is a movie that has been brewing for quite a while. As I noted earlier, Haunted Mansion is a reboot of the 2003 film, The Haunted Mansion, starring Eddie Murphy. Both Haunted Mansions are based off the popular theme park ride of the same name, which is located at Disneyland, Magic Kingdom, and Tokyo Disneyland. The original film actually came out the same year that another Disneyland ride turned movie came out, Pirates of the Caribbean, Curse of the Black Pearl. However, the latter film was received a lot better. 2003's The Haunted Mansion made a decent amount of money with a box office draw of $182 million against a $90 million budget. Although the reviews were pretty negative at the time, the film has undergone a reassessment over the years and is considered by some to be a cult classic. 7 years after the original film's release, it was announced that there was going to be a reboot with Guillermo del Toro serving as the writer and director. This announcement actually came months after he dropped out of the production for the adaptation of The Hobbit, which eventually landed with Peter Jackson. Del Toro revealed that the movie wouldn't take place in our world, but a heightened reality, and that the main antagonist would be the Hatbox Ghost, which is a character from the ride. And of course, given Del Toro's style, the film would have leaned much more into the horror and scary side than the film we ended up getting. By 2012, Del Toro had submitted a script. However, a year later, he announced he was no longer the project's director, but would still serve as the writer and a producer. He chose not to direct because Disney wanted to move fast on the project, but Del Toro was busy with other projects at the time. In 2015, the writer behind High Fidelity, D.V. DeVincentes, was brought in to rewrite the script. Additionally, around the same time, there was rumors that Ryan Gosling was in talks for the lead role. This version of the movie floated around in development hell for several years until August of 2020, when Disney officially announced the movie. However, Del Toro was no longer attached to the project, and Gosling was no longer in the conversation for the lead role. Del Toro's script was thrown out as it was deemed by Disney executives to be too scary and intense for younger audiences. In 2020, Disney then enlisted Katie Dippold to write a new version of the script, who was no stranger to reboots as she was the screenwriter behind 2016's Ghostbusters reboot. Justin Simien was brought in to direct the picture in early 2021, and later in the same year, the cast was assembled. Tons of big names were added to the flick, such as Lakeith Stanfield, Danny DeVito, Owen Wilson, Rosario Dawson, and Tiffany Haddish. A year later, Jamie Lee Curtis was brought in, along with Jared Leto. Don't even get me started on Jared Leto. I hate that guy. Principal photography kicked off in October of 2021, shooting on location in Georgia in addition to a fair amount in the studio. Filming wrapped up on February of 2022, and the film was sent off to post-production, where the visual effects were done by DNEG and Industrial Light and Magic. By the end of production, the budget was calculated to be around $150 million. And according to Collider, the marketing and distribution for the film was estimated to be in the range of $65 to $150 million. That meant the film would need to make around $300 million to break even. And that's not even factoring in the cut that the movie theaters take. So did Haunted Mansion make that $300 million? No, obviously not. Haunted Mansion released July 28th of 2023 for an opening weekend gross of $24 million. It debuted at number 3 in the box office, right behind Barbie and Oppenheimer. It went on to make $67 million in the US and $49 million overseas, for a total worldwide gross of $117 million. The reviews were not any kinder. IMDb has it at a 6 out of 10, Metacritic has it at a 47%, and the Rotten Tomatoes critic score has it at a 37%. Although the audience score on Rotten Tomatoes is a lot higher at 84%. So perhaps the film appealed more to general audiences. Deadline estimated the total loss for the film to be at $117 million, which is ironically the same amount that the film made at the box office. The film took the spot as the 5th biggest box office bomb of 2023, right behind The Marvels, The Flash, Dial of Destiny, and Wish. 2023 was a bad year for Disney, as The Flash was the only film on that list that wasn't a Disney product. So that, of course, invites the question of what went wrong. What caused this film to crash and burn so badly? This film bombed for many reasons, many of which you may have already noticed from the previous segment. So let's analyze all these factors. First up is the release date. For some reason, this movie was dropped in the middle of summer instead of the Halloween season. This was an absolutely baffling move that didn't make any sense. Maybe they thought it was summer blockbuster material, or maybe they wanted to time it so it would go on Disney Plus in October, but either way, massive blunder. No one wants to watch a Halloween-esque film in the middle of summer. That's like releasing a Christmas movie in April. Not only did the release date not make sense for the season, but it also put it 1 week after two of the biggest movies of the year debuted. Barbie and Oppenheimer. Obviously, no one knew how big of a cultural phenomenon Barbenheimer would be, but they should have expected them to still be doing solid numbers 1 week after their release. Haunted Mansion was completely overshadowed by those films, and many people didn't even realize it came out, which of course wasn't helped by the weak marketing campaign that went with the film. This poor marketing campaign was influenced by the actors' union strike, which started on July 14th of 2023. Of course, all of the actors in the film were part of the Screen Actors Guild, which meant they were not allowed to promote Haunted Mansion through interviews, premieres, press junkets, festivals, and social media. There was promotional material that was filmed before the strike, but it certainly was not enough. And for a movie that has such a focus on the huge ensemble cast, this was super detrimental to the film. Another reason why this film failed is because no one asked for it. I know the original Haunted Mansion has found its fan base over the years, but that doesn't mean people wanted a remake. Remakes and reboots are way too overdone in modern Hollywood, and Disney saw some of their other remakes made money, so they thought there was potential in this project. Maybe if the film had an interesting take on the concept, or a solid creative voice like what was originally planned with Del Toro's version, then a remake would have been warranted. But the 2023 movie didn't do anything interesting or new with the property, and it was just another cash grab. That, combined with the overinflated budget, meant this film was pretty much doomed to not make its money back. And lastly, one big reason this film underperformed is because it simply wasn't great. It didn't have the best reviews, and the word of mouth wasn't amazing. Or at least, it wasn't as good as other movies that were released in the same month. I know there's many people out there that like this movie or just thought it was okay, but it's certainly not one of those films that you'd go to the theater and pay full price for. This is one of those movies that you'll catch on streaming after the fact. But I want to touch on why exactly I think the movie wasn't very good. I gotta say, I think Disney succeeded with adapting this Disneyland ride to a movie, because this doesn't feel like a movie at all. It feels like a theme park ride. A while back, Martin Scorsese got a lot of people online up in arms because he said that Marvel movies aren't cinema. Here's the exact quote. "Honestly, the closest I can think of them, as well made as they are, with the actors doing the best they can do under the circumstances, is theme parks. It isn't the cinema of human beings trying to convey emotional, psychological experiences to another human being." While I disagree with this assessment about most Marvel movies, I think this idea definitely applies to Haunted Mansion. This movie feels like a product rather than a piece of art. It's lacking any heart or an interesting creative voice, and it feels like yet another manufactured blockbuster that was pumped out by the Disney machine. Before I get too deep into my criticisms, I just want to say no hate to you if you like this movie. It just personally wasn't for me. That being said, I have a lot of negative things to say about this film, so just buckle up. The idea of Haunted Mansion feeling more like a product than a movie is also evident in the amount of product placement that's in this film. Like, characters will go out of their way to say they bought something at Costco or Amazon. The most egregious one to me is the Baskin-Robbins name drop in the middle of the main character's emotional monologue about his dead wife. Either it's very lazy product placement, or they are just really bad jokes. Like, how is saying you bought a pen at CVS a joke? That's not funny. And that's another example why this movie sucks. All the comedy falls flat. There was not a single joke in this movie that I laughed at, which is rare because I'm an idiot who will laugh at anything. This movie somehow made Owen Wilson and Danny DeVito unfunny. Not only that, but they totally wasted Rosario Dawson by giving her character basically nothing to do. Lakeith Stanfield is also such a talented actor, but it really felt like he was sleepwalking through this one. I don't know if that's a byproduct of the script or the direction, but I simply did not care about his character. And when you compare the main character of this film to the original, it's night and day. I'm not even a big fan of the original, but there's no denying that Eddie Murphy is an electric performer, and he can elevate any film that he's in. In my opinion, he saved the original from being a total disaster. So of course, when you stack that up against the 2023 film, the new one is going to be disappointing. My main gripe with this film is that it's just too damn long. The only good thing about the original Haunted Mansion is that it was short and to the point. But this one is very much the opposite. They could have shaved like 45 minutes off this movie, but in reality, they should have shaved 123 minutes off it. Also, one of the problems I had with the original is actually the opposite in this movie. I thought the plot to the original was way too simplistic, while the plot to this one is way too convoluted. There's so many side quests the characters have to complete in order to save the main conflict of the story, and it really bogs the film down in unnecessary exposition. There's also a lot of stupid lines in this movie. Haunted Mansion is one of those movies where the characters will state the obvious and it feels so unnatural. Like a character will be walking through a graveyard under a mansion and say, "So this is where they hid all the bodies." Like, no shit, Sherlock. Just another example of unnecessary exposition. And these lines certainly aren't helped by the cringy and obvious ADR. However, the biggest crime this movie commits is casting Jared Leto. At least his character goes to hell in this movie. Haunted Mansion is an uninspired remake of a mediocre original film that was completely overshadowed by Barbenheimer and was released in the middle of summer. Maybe if the film had better marketing, a better release date, a smaller budget, and was just a good movie, then it would have succeeded. So basically, what I'm trying to say is that this movie shouldn't exist. So that's the story of 2023's Haunted Mansion, Disney's failed next big thing. What are your thoughts on the film? Is it good, bad, or just okay? How does it compare to the original? I'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments below. If you like the video, make sure to check out the others in the series and maybe even subscribe. Thank you to Surfshark for being my first ever sponsor. Make sure to check out the link in the description for 4 months of Surfshark. I highly recommend it. This has been Tom from Eisenhart Productions, and thank you so much for watching. I'll see you next week.